You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. You wanted it, you got it. A radio program that helps teach you options trading inside and out, basic to complex. This is Options Bootcamp. Whether you want to learn how to protect your portfolio, generate income, or even become a master of volatility, the Options Bootcamp drill instructors will break it all down for you. Now, let's get you into peak options trading shape. Here are your Options Bootcamp drill instructors.
All right, everybody. That music means it is Education Wednesday once again here on the old Options Insider Radio Network. Time to kick things off with the premier options educational program. Yes, it is time once again for Options Bootcamp. If I sound a little bit back to normal, except maybe a little bit worse for wear from all my jet lags, because we are back in the Chicago studios, back from the Delta hot zone known as the House of Mouse down there. But pleased to say, it seems like we survived, so that's nice. Had some fun while we were at it as well. But I'm happy to get back into it today on Options Bootcamp. You know, listeners, you guys have been eager to get at us, so we're happy to get back to do this and just get back with you folks. You guys on Options Bootcamp, we love all of our shows, but you folks on Options Bootcamp do seem like you turn it up to 11 with your engagement with the show, and we love you all for it. And, you know, joining me to bask in your love and send it right back to you is a guy who's not known for a lot of love. He's the black-headed one himself, Mr. Dan Passarelli, the founder of Market Taker Mentoring and author of one or two or half a dozen options-oriented tomes. Mr. P, welcome back to Options Bootcamp, sir. It's been a little while since we've done this live. Do you remember how we do this, sir?
I've got a pretty rough idea. I take copious notes, Mark. You know that.
You are known for your diligent preparation, sir. So I'm glad to see that you remember how to do this. In fact, as I say that, as I ask you how you remember, we're going to mix it up a little bit today. I got a surprise for you, Dan. Are you ready?
I was born ready, Mark.
All right. Before we get into the heart of the show proper, been waiting for a while to do this. I'm very excited. If you recall, listeners, on our Option Block 1000th episode spectacular, where we announced the launch of Options Insider Plus and Options Insider Pro. At that time, we gave away our first of what are going to become a regular staple here on the network, the bespoke, truly custom Options Insider. These are the Pro Trading Crates. So our first ever Pro member, whose name I'm blanking on right now, we got him one. In fact, we're still putting that together, going to send that out. But now July has just come to an end. So all of our Pro members, this is for the Pro only, because this requires some work and some effort and indeed some expense on our part. I look at what we're going to ship and I'm like, really? We're going to send this? But we're going to do it. So yeah, so July has come to an end. So everyone who was active, everyone who was in there on the Pro side for the month of July, you are now automatically entered into the drawing for the second. These are completely one-off. These are no two trading crates will ever be the same. They're always going to be unique and bespoke and cool. So I'm really excited about this, Dan. So Dan, guess what? We're going to give away the second ever in the history of time Options Insider Pro Trading Crate right here live on the show. Are you ready, sir?
Is it the unopened Boba Fett live action?
I'm keeping that for myself. That thing's worth about, I don't know, a couple $100,000, if not $1 million right now. Especially the one from when we were kids that shot the rocket and then that kid swallowed it or whatever and ruined it for all the rest of us. So if you have that one out there, you're probably sitting on maybe a couple of million on that thing. Those collectibles have gone up in value these days, Mr. Dan. I'm not sure if you've noticed that, not just NFTs, but cool little plastic things, which we have a few in the studio here as well, have gone up. But we have it all done up. Our producers have diligently created a whole system here with the random number generator and everything. So if you are ready, Dan, I will hit the button and we shall determine who shall be the recipient of the second ever Options Insider Pro Trading Crate. Are you ready? Tell me when to hit the button, Dan.
Ready, go.
All right, I am hitting the button now. All right, here we go. Random number, bam. And that number corresponds to John Vieser. I hope I am not butchering your name, but congratulations. Let me look here. You are, looks like he's actually been a member since the beginning. So welcome to you. Hope to see you in the live one of these days here, John. That'll be fun as well. But you are the recipient of the second ever in the history of time Options Insider Pro Trading Crate. Now, what is going to go in that? We're going to do a bunch of cool stuff. First off, our producers will contact you because we need to get your shirt size. You're going to get some cool, unique Options Insider gear. The only people who get this, listeners, are pretty much people who work here. Some of our network contributors have scammed me for some over the years. And a lot of the CEOs and heads of big brokerage firms and exchanges out there have scammed me for them over the years. So you might see some of them walking around with them because, quite frankly, our logo is pretty cool. And people do like to rock it out there a little bit. So whenever we go to conferences and things, people are always hitting me up for this. But we're very selective in who gets it. And you guys are going to get some unique Options Insider cool gear. So that's coming your way, sized to you. And of course, we also like to have an educational component to this. So looking around our studio here, I have a stack here, Dan, of just books. So many great books. Let me just leaf through a couple here. You'll get your choice. Our producers will send you. Here's a list. You get to choose, listeners. You have, for example, this epic tome. I can't believe we're going to ship this, but we will. From the legend, Jack Schwager, creator of Market Wizards. He has a complete guide to the futures market, second edition. This thing is a freaking treatise here, so you could get that. Of course, we have the Options Traders Hedge Fund, options for advisors and institutions. That's from Mr. Rhodes and Mr. Meatball. We have the titular Options Playbook from Brian Overby, a.k.a. the thing that created the whole OPR show around it. You can have that in your hot little hands to refer to, all completely for free. Investing Redefined from the folks over there at Swan. The Institutional ETF Toolbox from Eric Balkunis. And even our own Mr. Passarelli has contributed a copy of Trading Options Greek. So our producers will reach out to you, John, and give you a list of all the ones you can choose. You get one. You don't get all of them because can't ship a 100-pound box to you. You get to choose one of those books, as well as a whole bunch of other cool, like this unique stuff. We have this, our studio is filled with it. You might imagine, listeners, we've amassed a lot of cool, unique, one-off. Some of these stuff doesn't exist anymore. Some of these firms don't exist anymore. You're going to get cool stuff like that. Like, for example, our buddy, Mr. Schwartz over there in Trade Alert Land, before he sold Trade Alert to the mighty SIBO empire, created a bunch of cool things like this set of unique lenses for your smartphone that are options themed. So you can have like a macro lens and a micro lens and a telephoto, all kinds of cool stuff. Comes in an awesome case. And yeah, you're going to probably get one of those too. Awesome stainless steel custom water, you name it. All kinds of cool, unique stuff here. Mouse pad, how about that for options expiration? All sorts of fun, unique stuff. You never know what's going to make it into these things. So a lot of cool stuff. But it's going to be an educational component, going to be some cool Options Insider gear component, and then some fun stuff you can't really get anywhere else. We're going to ship all that out to you, so stay tuned for that. We're already into August now, so if you're an active pro member for August, you'll be entered into that drawing as well. So if you haven't signed up, check it out. TheOptionsInsider.com/pro. Again, this is only for the pro members because it takes some effort and it's no small expense. We have to buy the shirts and everything else. So but we like to do it for our folks who are committed to the cause and enjoying it. Glad to see so many of you are having fun out there. So keep it up out there as we keep on rolling, Dan. You know, the people, they're champing at the bit. So they have to get at us. We've been not live for a couple of weeks here on Boot Camp. So the questions are piling up, Mr. P. So let's say we get into them, a little bit of the old mail call.
Mail call. Time to look at questions submitted by our listeners.
We got another pro member, Mr. Unlimited, in the chat. He says, congrats, Johnny. Don't forget to sweep the leg. Ah, yes. Karate Kid reference there. Always good for a nice 80s reference in our. That's why our chat is fun, listeners. If you're not in there right now having fun with it, you're missing out on all the joyous 80s references you could handle in a show like this. Let's keep rolling here. Let's get to it, Dan. We got a lot to get to. Josh, first off, Josh says, I have a question for the OBC crew. I've been listening to your podcast for a while and just signed up at MTM. There you go, Dan, a new MTM mentee. Says, I found the world of finance to be fascinating and am considering a career change. How exactly does one become a professional trader at an investment bank or hedge fund? I was considering finding an online college that offers a finance degree and have looked at different certifications such as the CFA. Is this the right track, and would you recommend this industry to work in professionally? Thanks. Mr. Dan, he's one of your mentees. What do you have to say here for Josh? He wants to know, what are your thoughts on the right approach to becoming a pro, which, by the way, I should mention, we have done here on this show. We have listeners have written in who have become recently professional traders. So this is not an outlandish request. Mr. Dan, what are your thoughts here for your newest mentee, Josh?
Yeah, I've had a few students who have went on to become professional traders. It's really, really cool. Step one, learn as much as you can. Read, do some classes. I mean, you can take lots of classes in your bunny slippers at home. And then when you're ready to go, to really commit, I mean, it kind of helps to live in New York, Chicago, San Francisco, Philadelphia. It's not as required nowadays, but it does kind of help. That's still where a lot of these are centered. And, don't be afraid to start at the bottom. Don't be afraid to go and offer to work for somebody for free. People they'll respect that. And sometimes that's what it takes. If you can't get a job, just offer up your services. Man, my first job out of college was making $9,000 a year. And geez, man, I worked for nothing for a long time. So, just get in there, get your hands dirty, get in with a good group, look and see if people are getting moved up the ladder there. If not, that could still be okay. Learn on the job training and then find another job. And at some point, there are people who back people. Once you figure that you really know enough and you're really confident you do because you had some good hands-on training, find a backer and do it.
Yeah, obviously the path that Dan and I took into this business is a little bit harder to come by now. You can't really just come to Chicago and go out to the floor there, have a firm that has a massive training program that they will put you through and then eventually back you, put you on a badge on the floor, etc. That kind of thing is there's still some firms out there, but it's fewer and farther between now. In terms of, well, first off, the last part of your question, would I recommend this industry to work in? Yes, this is a great one to get into. One of the nice things about trading that it gets demonized a lot, and certainly there are negative aspects to trading here. But one of the nice things, one of the things that attracted me to trading in general, options trading, of course, in particular, is that there really are not very many layers of stratification in the trading world. You come in, if you can trade, you will make money, and that's your P&L is kind of who you are. There's no junior VP, this, assistant director, all that crap is out the window. All they care about is, can you trade? Can you help the firm make money? And you will keep some portion therein of the money that you make. So there's a nice meritocracy level to it, which is refreshing in a world where everyone wants to be a senior VP of this and an associate director of that. All that nonsense is gone. You don't have that in trading. So if you like that, this is a good way to go. I wouldn't recommend the CFA. I don't know a lot of firms are really looking for that. I don't know what your educational background is. If you're an English major, you may want to think about maybe adding something a little bit more quantitative to that. It does seem like if there is any sort of specialization or educational focus that a lot of the funds and the trading firms out there are looking for these days, it is stuff on the quant level, whether it's quantitative finance or getting into some more hardcore coding. If you can come in and actually help these firms develop the models that they're going to use for trade and the algorithm, that certainly is a bonus in your favor. Of course, listening to shows like this, getting all the education you can get is certainly a great starting point as well. You don't want to go in there not knowing what a call or what a put is there too. But also, don't feel too worried that you don't have a lot of experience. A lot of these firms They want people with a strong background, strong knowledge of the space. A lot of experience could sometimes be a detriment, though, because a lot of these firms will have a unique style or approach to how they trade, and they don't want to break you of your old habits before they teach you theirs. They'd rather have a blank slate that they could train up in their own style, in their own image, if you will. So not having a ton of experience isn't a negative out there. Again, look at one of our listeners recently got a job on a trading desk. He just learned about options a few months ago. So that's kind of a rare exception. I wouldn't recommend that, but not for everyone at least. But it is possible. So I would say if you need to tweak your education, I would definitely say go for some of the more quantitative type things like, of course, quantitative finance degrees and those types of things seem to have a little bit more bang for your buck than your CFA. And then again, learn everything. If you are focused on options, learn everything you can about this space. Doesn't hurt you to do all the free stuff first. And then, of course, when you feel ready, there are some firms still out here, and of course in New York and others, it is going to be a different beast. So you're not going to be out there kind of making markets and doing two-sided liquidity anymore. It's going to be much more of a prop/hedge fund style of trading where you will have positions and you will have to put them on, establish them, defend them, and all the things that go into that. So you want to have a strong practical understanding of how options work. Skew, hedging, delta neutral type trading, all these things, dynamically hedging. Make sure you understand all of that when you go into these types of firms, because that's the way a lot of them trade. They're not just going to be a retail guy, buy a bunch of calls and hope for the best. There's a lot more going on to it than that. Learn about margin, all those kind of things, because the pro traders can do things a little bit differently. We can go on about this a lot, but I want to make sure we squeeze in a few more. This is a great question, Josh. If you have follow-ups or other things you want to know about, or give us an update on how it goes for you, let us know. We want to hear from you. Next up, great name, Chinggis Akatayev. Hopefully I didn't butcher that. Great first name, though. Chinggis, that's Genghis Khan. People don't know that, but Temujin also, he was Chinggis Khan for a lot of people, so that's a great name, Chinggis. He says, hello, gentlemen. Well, hello, Chinggis. I love it. They're so polite, our audience. Great to listen to your show. I was wondering if you can direct the OI and how that affects the stock price. Also, some pointers on how to identify the direction based on the OI. Thank you, listener of Options Bootcamp and Volatility Views. Interesting choices. Bootcamp and Volatility Views. Bootcamp, kind of the more basic, and then Vol Views, a little bit more of the expert level, kind of. So two extremes there on your content choices, but good to hear from you, Chinggis. I'm trying to read into your question a little bit. How can direct the OI and how that affects the stock price? Okay, well, OI, of course, open interest, listeners. You can go look for this yourself pretty easily on most brokerage platforms. If you have any scanning tools available to you, that'll also show you. The size open interest strikes are where you're going to find, obviously the most paper aggregating around. But that won't tell you the whole story. Just because there's a ton of OI to the upside calls in some name doesn't mean people are gobbling up these types of positions. You have to go do a little bit more digging on that. A tool you can add into that analysis is the skew. Like, for example, if you have a name and you see a bunch of OI, let's say, to the upside, but then also the calls are, extremely depressed, maybe more so than they would be in, normally in a normal environment for that name, you can probably reasonably intuit that these people were probably selling those calls to the upside. So OI in conjunction with other tools will help you do a little bit more analysis. And as you put it, interpret the direction. Again, there's no guarantee. Just because the skew is crushed in one direction or bid in the other doesn't mean the underlying is going to move that way. But it does mean people are positioning for that to happen. Mr. Dan, what are your thoughts here for the excellently named Chinggis? Can you direct the OI? Wants to know how that affects the stock price and how to use it to identify the direction in the underlying, sir.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I want to say, Mark, you made a really great point. You can never use open interest totally on its own. It's always in conjunction with other stuff, specifically that other stuff, volume, whether it's a buy or a sell, which we can infer from whether it traded on the bid or the offer, whether it's opening or closing, which we can infer whether the volume is greater or less than the open interest. And, whether it's part of a spread as well, which we can infer, especially if it's an odd lot number trading, like 125 contracts trading at two strikes at the exact same time, we can infer that that's a spread. So, there's a lot going on, but once you do, yeah, there's a lot of things that you can infer from that. Most option trading, believe it or not, this is not true for me, but most option trading is just simply call buying from people who are bullish for whatever reason. And so, it's when you see a big block of people buying calls, you can infer that, hey, if it's an opening position and they're actually buying and it's not part of a spread, maybe they know something. Then do your own work and you're off to the races.
Well said. So I'm not sure what you mean by direct the OI, Chinggis, so maybe you could inform us on that. I mean, obviously, if you do a lot of size paper, you will be the OI, so you can direct it from that perspective. But for a lot of retail customers, that isn't going to happen. So if you have more insight into what you meant by that, Chinggis. But great name, great question. I love our listeners are just from all over the world here, Dan. Boot Camp really reaches far and wide, which I love. Like this next one coming in from Vivek. He says, hello, Mark. I'm a regular listener of, it doesn't say hello, Dan, so nana boo boo to you, sir. I'm a regular listener of Options Boot Camp, and I've learned a lot from it. Thanks a lot for hosting such awesome podcasts. Well, you're welcome, Vivek, and everyone else who takes the time to listen out there and write in with your questions. We love you all. It says, very informative. He's got a comment here. I'm a Robinhood user. I will continue to use Robinhood despite the FINRA report. Here is my take on the report. 1, Robinhood Instant is technically a margin account, but you cannot buy stocks on credit or sell naked options. It just allows you early access to funds you have deposited through ACH transfer. 2, Robinhood Gold customers could, quote, disable margin and downgrade to instant, which again is technically margin, but practically not what we understand to be margin. 3, negative balance. This used to show over the weekend when a short option is assigned and a long option is exercised. It's cleared up by Monday. It happened to me multiple times, and I knew what it was. There's other stuff that I personally did not get impacted by, so I cannot make a comment. Here's why I will continue to use Robinhood. 1, commissions are not everything, yes, but I have used both Robinhood and Thinkorswim, and have not noticed any particularly superior fills with Thinkorswim over Robinhood. If the bid-ask spread was wide, fills are difficult on both platforms. 2, their margin is the cheapest. It's something that no one seems to cover. 2.5% interest on margin is a steal. I felt that the podcast on Robinhood was a little condescending. On those who continue to choose to use it. So just wanted to provide you and Dan a take from a Robinhood user's perspective. Thank you, Vivek. Well, we did not mean to be condescending if it came off like that. If we were condescending to anyone, it was to Robinhood itself. That firm really seemed to not care about the needs or even just the benefits of their users over the long term. It really seemed like they were just full steam ahead towards the IPO and, damn the torpedoes. They don't care about anything else, including what happens to the users along the way. But if you are having a good experience with Robinhood, sounds like you know what you're doing here, Vivek. So I wouldn't put you into the camp of people who maybe could wander into some of these traps that Robinhood laid out by accident. You're not going to sell puts like that and be surprised when they're exercise and that sort of thing. So that's good. And if you have a good experience with Robinhood and you're enjoying it and getting benefit from it, I'm not going to tell you to switch. If you're not being impacted by it, go for it. I think for people who are new and coming in, I wouldn't recommend it for them. No, I would definitely recommend they go elsewhere to a firm that has been less predatory. But if you understand what's going on with FINRA, you're aware of the dangers, and you're an adult, you can take the risks. You're cool with that. That's good. Speaking of which, it doesn't seem like you're the only one out there, Vivek, because right now Robinhood is up $21. So it's up 45% today to almost 69.5. It's up nearly 100% since it went IPO. So clearly you are not the only one, Vivek. Other people out here are liking Robinhood, or at the very least are liking the stock. So much for the great, Wall Street bets, operation against Robinhood. If anything, it seems to be the opposite. It seems like they're bidding it up. Dan, what do you have to say for Vivek here, who's taking us to task for being condescending to Robinhood users, sir?
Yeah, I mean, there's no condescending. We're just pointing out some of what their practices are, and that's really, really useful for new traders. Look, Vivek, obviously, I'm inferring that you have spent some time trading, kind of get what you're doing. I can infer that from just what you're saying here. So that's okay. Look, a lot of people use IB. We could say negative things about them. Their customer service is embarrassing, right? I would never send a new person to them either. Robinhood did do some things that were bad enough to get fined. Definitely a red flag. I wouldn't want to send a new person to them, but somebody who's experienced, gets what's going on in the big picture and is okay with it and likes the opportunity for no commissions, do it. And there's nothing wrong with that. So yeah, not being condescending, just trying to help as many people as we can, whatever their level of experience is.
All right, listeners. Unfortunately, That music means we come to the end of this show. Don't blame me. You have so many questions. I want to keep answering them. It's Dan who has to go, so send your hate mail to Dan. But before we go, Dan, if they want to send hate mail to you or love, where should they go? What should they do?
Send the hate mail to Mark's house, care of Options Bootcamp. And you can contact me at markettaker.com. Just go to the Contact Us page, and I'd love to hear from you.
There you go. So check them out. Markettaker.com is the place to go. 2 T's. If you want Dan's book, just mention it there, John, who won our pro thing. And you, of course, can pick that or any of the other books I mentioned. We'll have a whole list of them there. A whole bunch of other cool stuff is coming your way. Options Pro Trading Crate number 2 heading at you. We're going to start compiling already the one for August. If you're active in August, if you haven't, join up. We'll see you in there. Live chat, all the shows, Options Oddities. It's a whole bunch of cool stuff in there. The Pro Trading Crate is just a really cool cherry on top out there. So stay tuned for that. Of course, speaking of live and pro, if you are on the pro side, of course, I was traveling last week, so we did our double duty of pro Q&As the week before, but we're back. We're back hot and heavy in exactly an hour and a half with my old buddy, Mr. Nick Howard, the founder of Bantix Technologies, creator of a analytics suite pretty much everybody out there in the futures options world uses, which is, of course, Quick Strike. So have at it and join us there. If you have questions for Nick, hit us up. Anything futures, options, trading, how the trade should be set up, performance, all of that cool stuff. Have at it. And we'll see you in there in about exactly an hour and a half. A lot of you have already hit us up, so it should be a good chock full hour of questions about futures, futures options, analytics, how to use these things. A lot of you are looking to get more active in that side of the space, so you can join us there in an hour and a half. Otherwise, we'll see you back here. We've got OPR coming at you later today. Then, of course, we'll back here again next week, another episode of Options Bootcamp.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.